Jeff, when you did that, I mean, it is so clear it's your calling because you wrote jokes and stepped up there and did it. But had you trained yourself relevant to tone and
Oh, no.
timing and all the things that,
No,
right? Okay.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was always fascinated with stand-ups. Like as a child, my parents would watch The Tonight Show and I could hear it through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was ever a comedian on there, I would get out of bed and I would go watch between where through the crack in the door. I didn't really care about the actors but I wanted to watch the comics. But that's no training. I was such a nervous wreck. I couldn't eat that day. I couldn't look at anybody. But I knew a minute and a half into it, I'm like, this is what I want to do. And
wow,
I describe it. It's like finding your gift because I believe we're all gifted with something. Some people, many somethings, but it's finding that thing that makes your heart sing and that you're good at.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people describe it as something that you can do almost without very little training and preparation, that it's just what you're good at. I mean, you can just do it. It's just in you, right? I mean, is that what I'm sort of hearing you say too?
Yeah. I mean, at this point in my life, I'm very humble about this thing because I don't know why I can do it. But if you called me up and said, hey, Jeff, I need 30 jokes on home security, I could hang up with you, take a pad, and within 30 minutes, I would call you back and go, I wrote 50 of them. Here they are. I don't know why I can do that.
Wow. Right.
But I don't know how other people can take care of elderly people. I don't know how some people can take a pile of rocks and be a mason and make a beautiful wall out of it. I mean, I think we all have these gifts, but you are on to something. You always hear people say, you need to follow your passion. I don't necessarily agree with that because sometimes your passion is something you're not good at. You need to follow something you're good at. And because you're good at it, you're going to be successful at it, which will increase your passion about it. But I mean, I'm very passionate about music. I can't sing. I can't play an instrument. So it would be silly for me to pursue a career in music only because I was passionate about it. I'm not gifted that way. That's not something I'm good at. And so I think a lot of people in their life, they spin their wheels doing something or pursuing something they're passionate about, but they're not good at it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, to me, I always talk about how it's not about talent. It's also, it's about drive. In other words, you were and are so gifted, but you also unlocked an unbelievable level of drive to reach the point in your career that you have reached, which is uncanny. So where does that play into this, right? I mean, I've seen unbelievable athletes, incredible athletes who have an unbelievable amount of talent, but they don't make it to the big leagues because they don't put in the effort. They don't have the drive. Where does that come into that formula for you?
They piss it away. I've seen so many people in comedy, men and women, that were unbelievably gifted and talented. And they didn't. And I will tell you this, going back to when I first started, there's a ton of people that are successful, and not all of them are stand-ups. Like Judd Apatow, when I first met Judd, was the house MC for the Comedy and Magic Club. Now he's, made 1 billion movies, but the common denominator they all had is all of these people worked hard. And
yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you're old enough, Molly, to remember, this is a silly thing. Remember an old Dan Fogelberg song called Run for the Roses? And it's about...
sing it for me, Jeff. Get me inside of that for a minute.
But it's about a colt being born in Kentucky and he's being bred to run in the Kentucky Derby. But there's a line in the song, and as a teenager, it used to give me chills. It still makes my eyes water, but it says it's breeding and it's training and it's something unknown. And it's the something unknown part that makes my eyes water. And I think what that is that drive. It is that, I remember in my early days of playing clubs, after the show, I would come back and I would pull my notebooks out and I would listen to my set and I would work on new material and I would sit there and, Letterman would be on and you'd make yourself a sandwich in the kitchen. But the other comedians might be down at the bar chasing waitresses or, they might be getting high or whatever. But my thing was, I want to get better at this. I want to get, and it's almost for me, it was way before I heard the theory, but the Malcolm Gladwell thing. If you do something for 10,000 hours, you're going to be an expert at it. And so I had friends that would park themselves in New York and LA, hoping to get on stage somewhere 2 or 3 times a week for 5 minutes. My choice was, I'm going to go on the road and I may be playing in Des Moines, Iowa, but I'm getting on stage 30 minutes every night. And, my goal was to be on Johnny Carson when I started. And I knew Johnny wasn't going to be around forever. And people would always say, well, it takes you 10 years to hone your craft well enough to be on Carson. And so I didn't say it out loud, but I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do it in 5 because Johnny's not going to be around in 10. I'm going to do it in 5. And I literally, Molly, had 8 years in a row. I did over 500 shows a year.
That's incredible.
So, and people go, well, there's not that many days in the year, but that's going to different places in the same night or doing multiple shows in the same night. But I thought, instead of parking myself in New York and LA, this is how I'm going to get good. I'm going to do it every night. I'm going to work on writing every night. And it actually took me 5 years and a month. I missed it by a month. But
to get on Johnny Carson.
But that's awesome. That was that drive. I wanted to be good at it.
Where do you think your confidence came from? I mean, your confidence to step out of IBM, your confidence to land some jokes and not land some, but still do it again, and to go up to your room and call your family and say no, which I love. Tell me about that.
I don't know. I just always thought I was going to win. And you only know what you know. I don't know that everybody doesn't think this way, but if I was going to do it, I was going to, and of course I didn't. There are a lot of things that I didn't win, a ton of things I didn't win.
Sure.
But I thought I was going to. I remember when they did Star Search, Ed McMahon hosted.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I auditioned for Star Search 6 times and they turned me down every time. And the last time they said, you're really, really funny, but you're really Southern. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm from Georgia. And so when I get that first night on the Tonight Show and Johnny, after the set, waves me over to come sit in the chair and talk to him. And I'm talking to Johnny and we go to commercial break. Ed McMahon leans over and he says, how come you never did Star Search? And I said, Mr. McMahon, I auditioned 6 times and y'all turned me down every time. But in my mind, I'm thinking, but I don't give a damn because I'm sitting here talking to Johnny tonight. You can have Star Search. I'm talking to Johnny.
Yeah, I'm good.